This is good, guys. This is going to be the last video before it officially launches. We're touching on the characters I think you're going to be using the most and the ones that I think you should be adding to your teams, at least at the start, to fill in the gaps, fill in the holes. These are going to be your MVPs, your 4 stars. Guys, if you're looking for some 5-star information and you want maybe, I don't know, a bunch of information on who you should want to reroll for, you just don't know anything about the 5 stars in general, check out a video I already put up going over that and also my top 3 reroll targets personally. In this video, we're touching on 4 very important characters that you need to know about. At least I think you do, okay? And obviously, we're going to do a reverse disclaimer here. I'm always correct no matter what. I don't care what the general population is. No things are subject to change, even though the game's not out, all right? If you understood that reverse disclaimer, right? Instead of just saying everything's... just nod and say I agree down below in the comment section. So the 4 things that we're going to be talking about and why these characters are so good is this is a card game at the end of the day, and it's a mix of one very important Chaos Zero Nightmare mechanic and one very important card game mechanic. If you've been around card games before, you know you're limited by mainly 2 things, right? Well, I guess 1, but resources. So in this game, in Chaos Zero Nightmare, you're limited by the cards you can add to your hand every turn as a resource of cards, and then you're limited by how much AP generation that you have to cast those cards, right? You want the most efficient things, which is why you guys out there who are looking for the big 5 stars are like, yeah, secretly, they're really efficient, right? They have ways to cast cards for free. They do a lot of damage. They have higher multipliers on their cards. They do all this other stuff. That's the card game side. The other thing that we're gonna be talking about in the first 4 star I wanna go over with you guys is the survivability mechanic behind the mental stress damage that you take. A lot of characters have the ability to heal with their cards. Everyone has like a basic one. You can relieve a little bit of stress like that. But if you find yourself in a team composition where you're kind of wanting to set up, you want to take some time, shielding is actually extremely important. And Maribell is a character that you are definitely going to want to have as an option in these slower based teams, or someone who just doesn't want to deal with mental stress that much in some of the longer encounters. You can't just take everything out right away. You're not a big 5-star only whale here. So a lot of the starter cards, we don't care about the first 2 for most characters, but I do want to note that Maribell actually has, as she's a vanguard character, a way in a basic card to generate a shield. Most characters are either going to have like a secondary attack card in addition to their basic attack, or they're going to have some way to heal. The shielding card, even though this one's a basic one, is a pretty rare card at the start of the game, at least at the launch of CZN. But the other thing that she does do is she has a lot of ways to add shields. So she's got a secondary shield card for 220. And then she also has her unique cards where she does damage and gains a shield. And then she also has OIC, which gives a shield and then applies weakened, which is going to make enemies do even less damage. So she's got a couple of ways to add shields. She's not the highest shielding character. I think that one goes to like the 5-star Magna, but she's got a lot of cards that actually add shields. And this is important because if you fully block the damage coming in, unless they changed it substantially since the beta, you're not going to take mental stress damage. And in longer encounters, when we don't have gear and stuff, she can make a lot of your grinding very predictable and a lot easier in some scenarios. So to keep her in mind there for that reason as well. And then her ego skill is just a skill that's the ego skill, the ultimate, that you can just cast for a giant shield, which basically like allows you to weather just a tremendous amount of damage for free. So this is just going to be her base kit that we're going over. She does have some nice epiphanies and things of this nature, but just know that if you're looking for a character that's going to help you shield up and sort of be able to take your time, you find that something that you're missing in your team, she is someone you're going to have access to, and she's going to be very good for that reason. Now, another character is going to play more into the card role. Sure, she's going to have a role in your party within Chaos Zero Nightmare, and she's going to be able to heal your party up. But the other main thing that she is going to do is she's going to allow you to increase your action point generation. She's got 2 main ways of dealing this. Now you can see one of her starter cards here is going to be the Essence of Water. Keep note of that because you're going to have ways to add more of these if you have Mika in your party. And it's going to be 0 cost, which is awesome, but it heals 100%, and then you just gain 1 action point. And gaining action points is going to help you empty cards out of your hand. So if you're finding ways where like you need a character in your party, maybe to heal you up a little bit, some defensive options, she can do that for you as well. She's got plenty of ways to heal your party. And on top of that, if you find your ways where maybe you have characters that want to cast multiple cards that cost 2 or multiple cards that cost 2 and then a 3, right, in a turn, she can help alleviate that and allow your experience to just be a little bit more consistent. You don't want to have hands where you draw 5 cards but you can play 2 a turn, right? She might be someone where you draw 5 cards per turn, and instead of being stuck playing just 2, you can play 3 or maybe even 4. Because another way that she has to add action point gain for you is she's got this tactical skill here where she gains 2 tide with save of 1. So gaining tide here for her is going to be her unique mechanic, where she'll start at a certain tide amount depending on what cards and stuff you're playing, and then if the tide goes up to 3, you gain an action point and it reduces the tide counter back down to 0. So you can see right here her upgrade card gains 1 tide, and then at the start of every turn you gain an additional tide. So even if you had no other way to gain tide, you didn't draw anything, just casting Delusion, waiting 2 turns, on that 3rd turn, which you can plan for, it'll happen when you draw your 5 cards, you'll gain an extra AP there. And you can also combine this with her Essence of Water skill, and you can force the tide counter to increase a little bit faster with her technical analysis skill here, which gives you 2 tide, right, which is pretty nice as well. So she's got a lot of ways to do that, and then she can also generate additional Essence of Water cards with her Ego skill, which is going to generate 2 sources, which is what this is right here. It's a mistranslation. And then they also have Exhaust, so you're not going to have them permanently, but you can Ego skill, heal 200%, and then gain 2 AP. So the turn you Ego skill, you can gain an extra 2 AP while healing your party back up. And if you also hit tide that turn, that's another AP. And if you have the natural Essence of Water, that's another AP. So she can help you hit these big turns where you're just sustaining and then doing a bunch of AP generation all on the same turn, or spread out if that's how you draw your cards, or if that's going to be a plus for the team that you have there. So Mika is someone else who is a very good general character to sort of be the glue for your team. Now, if you say, I don't have a DPS option, right? Out of all the 4-star DPSs, which one should I pick up? Which one do I enjoy personally? Now, there's another part of the game, which is hand generation, right? Drawing cards is nice. Hand generation is kind of that as well in some situations, depending on who you're pairing the hand generation with. There's some 5-stars like Kayron who like extra void cards in the hand. There's some other characters which we'll touch on that can ditch a bunch of cards. So hand generation is not card draw, but it can be in certain circumstances. And someone who is pretty nice in some sort of like kind of slow, low to the ground, maybe you build like a 5-star support like Calliope, you don't really have a damage dealer to pair with you, and you can just kind of get some nice value from the cards you play, actually is Tressa. I like Tressa a ton here, and this is because Tressa is fairly efficient in the damage she does versus the amount of AP that she uses. And this is because of her Shadow Dagger mechanic. So what she does here, she's got the base attack and the base heal. We don't care about that, but you can start seeing it right here with the Unsheathed Dagger, which creates 2 Shadow Daggers. So for 1 AP, you create 2 Shadow Daggers. You can just cast these. They cost 0 here, and they are exhausted when you use them, which means that they will not shuffle back into your deck. They will just go to the exhaust pile instead of the discard pile. But look how efficient this is. So for 1 AP, you create 2 Shadow Daggers. A Shadow Dagger costs 0 to use. It does 50 damage. You get 2 of them. So that's just basic baseline. 1 damage, 100% for 1 AP. Baseline. But it also does 2 Agony on whoever you hit it with, which does a fixed dot of 50%. So very early on, this alone is a very efficient AP cost to damage done ratio, because you're doing an extra 50% as a dot 2 times. If you put 2 different things on, that is now 1 mana spent for 200% damage done. And that's just within 1 turn because it's Agony of 2, and you get 2 of the Shadow Daggers. So on the next turn, they'll also do another 50%. So over 2 turns, it's 1 cost, 300% mod. Now there's some other things behind, like can you create all this other stuff, but from just percentage multipliers early on, very nice. And then you have some other ways that she can help you out as not just a DPS character, but she has some other debuffs for you as well. So she's got the poison debuff, but most importantly, she also has a weaken debuff which allows the enemies to do less damage to you, so your heals are a little bit more efficient, your shield's a little bit more efficient, and she's also not taking the primary role of a support. She can just kind of help you do that as well. In addition to that, she can heal and create an advanced Shadow Dagger, so a little bit more supportive options there. And the advanced Shadow Dagger costs 1 itself and does 100% as a damage mod and does 2 times 2 agony. So even more agony, even more damage right there. She's got some very nice epiphanies as well, which is something you'll run into where you can create more Shadow Daggers, or the Shadow Dagger creation skill will cost 0 instead of 1, so she gets even more efficient in that regard. And you can pair her up with other characters that care about generating cards or maybe discarding cards to gain an effect. Well, she can use 1 card to make 2 cards, and then you can discard them and do cool things like that. But she's a very strong base early game character, and you can do a lot with her, and she's going to be a character hopefully that I can play with right away. My rerolls not too hard, but if you're looking for a damage dealer of some kind, I think she's going to be right up your alley if you like a little bit more intricacies added to your game. And speaking of intricacies, I kind of have 2 characters to really talk about. Nia, you've probably already heard about, but this guy right here is, I think, sleeper OP. This guy right here, Cassius, he's like a support DPS that really messes with how effective card draw and card tutoring is in a card game, all right? And also, I think maybe a little bit AP generation, depending on who you pair him with. So this is going to be Cassius, and he is a little bit more intricate than all the other characters, but I think he's oh so fun. So he's got starting cards as well as the unique cards here. Unlike other characters, he's got like an extra heal. He is like a support DPS, so he's got a 2-cost attack card that's a little bit more efficient, 220 damage instead of 200, so that's an extra 10% damage per AP used right there. And he's got a little bit of a heal on mana field. We don't care too much about that. But the big thing here, and we'll get into it, is the Pop-Eyed Popper upgrade that he has, which starts a random quest, which we will touch on when we get into the quests that he does do. But he's got unique card, 160 damage for 1 energy, draw a card. Love it. Shuffle, it's an exhaust card, so it moves to the exhaust pile instead of your discard pile when you use it. Discard all the cards in your hand, draw that many cards. So if you pair him with someone who generates some cards that you want to discard, right? Think of like Renoa, maybe that's your character out there, right? You want to generate a bunch of bullets and dump them all in the graveyard. Cool, right there, you got it. You can shuffle them and dump them all in the yard. Oof. You know, it's a secondary way for you to dump the bullets into the yard with Renoa. If you don't have access to her skill, you need to do it now, and it gets even better than that in a second too. Then he's got Dice Trick, which is 2 for 240%, but it costs 1 less permanently for every single quest you've completed, and you can do a couple of them. You can do multiple of them in an encounter. And then we have the Joker card, which gets even better than this. I haven't talked about a lot of the upgrades other characters can get with dupes. I will with this one. Select 1 card from your draw pile, and you just get to draw it. So this is just, you got that 1 card. You've got all the setup cards, but you don't have the big payoff. Consistency is this guy's answer. Go and get it out of the draw deck. Oh no, I amassed all the bullets with Renoa, but I don't have her do a bunch of damage card. Joker's in my hand, I'll go get that, right? Something like that. So you can use this early on to go find a particularly important setup card that you might need, right? We just talked about with Mika being able to start your soul generation, right, with the water droplets, so you can start getting AP. You can even use it for something simple like that. You can even use something like Shuffle, right? It does have exhaust. You can use it as a simple, I don't like my hand, I don't like these other 4 cards, I need 4 different cards sort of thing, and that's fine. He's very good in that regard. But let's also talk about the 4 quests that he does with his own personal upgrade card. So it's going to start one of these 4 things. Different missions. One of them's going to want you to cast 3 0 costs. One of them's going to want you to cast 3 1 costs. The other one's going to want you to cast a 0, 1, and a 2. And the other one's going to want you to cast a different card from each of your characters. So like 1 Cassius card, 1 Tressa card, and like 1 Maribell card or something. And if you complete those, you'll get 1 reward depending on what quest that you are on. 000 is going to give you a card that does 40% damage mod for every card played that turn, which is pretty nice. 111 is the worst one in my opinion. It costs 0, does 90 damage, heals 90%. It's kind of whatever. Straight gives 2 morale, 2 resolve, and 2 fortitude, I do believe, or I think it's 2 morale, 1 resolve, 1 fortitude here to your whole party, which is just like, okay, sure, just give this, just buff Cassius up with this. Fine, why not? And then the last one is Full House, which is the one that you had to cast 1 card from each of your characters, which isn't that difficult. Just draws you 2 cards. It's fine. So you can kind of see it if you're nodding along going, oh yes, I see. If you've been around any sort of card game before, yeah, I like to cast, discard my hand, draw. I like tutors. I like drawing extra cards with Full House and doing damage, getting effects for free. I like having a card that is 160 damage for 1 and draws a card, just replaces itself. You're able to be extremely consistent with Cassius. So once you start putting together a team and you're like, man, I think I can fit this guy in my party, you'll be able to do really cool stuff with him. And then his ego skill generates 2 quest cards for you, and then for 1 turn it gives all enemies morale -5, which is just a massive damage negation for you as well. It is very expensive at 6, but it's massive damage negation. And then his epiphany cards, all very nice, right? You can do all damage to all enemies and draw a card per hit for 1 energy. You can do so much good stuff, and epiphanies are huge. It's huge. So this is really nice here. And then one thing I definitely want to talk about here is the E1. I'm talking about it just because it's the E1. He's a 4-star character. This changes the effect target range of the Joker card to also be able to target the graveyard. So if you have a card in your graveyard and it's not in your draw pile, you can go and get it with Joker immediately and reuse it. So you can do really wild stuff with this character, right? So maybe you have like Renoa and you've generated a bunch of these dirge bullets in your hand. You don't have access to Resolute Result yet. You don't have access to Joker in your hand, but you do have Shuffle. So you can use Shuffle, just discard all of the bullets because they don't have Ethereal. You just put them all in the graveyard. They're all in the graveyard. Guess what? It still triggers it because they all get put in the graveyard. So you're just dirge bulleting everyone for free with your Cassius, and then you get to draw a bunch of cards because you discarded a bunch of bullets. Maybe draw like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards, right? Or I guess you're not drawing 10 because you have that, but you draw like 8, 9 cards. And then you'll be able to draw into the Joker. You'll be able to draw into Resolute Result, whatever it is that you want to do. And you can then use like your ego skill on Renoa to add all of the dirge bullets in the graveyard back into your hand, right? You can do a lot of different things to just use Resolute Assault and discard them all again. So you can do a bunch of cool stuff out here. You can use like Instant Judgment, right? Discard it, bring it back, get it out of the graveyard with Joker, do it again, cast Resolute Assault, discard them all, right? Use ego skill, draw them back all, and then maybe, you know, beforehand you didn't have to shuffle into it, then you shuffle. So you can do a bunch of cool stuff with this character, and I think there's a lot of play with Cassius, and I think he's probably a little sleeper OP. And those of you who've been around card games before will probably quite figure out pretty fast how cool this guy is. So that's what's going to be going on here. I cannot wait to reroll tonight. Be hanging out with my boys. I don't know if I'm going to stream or not. I still need to work on a little bit of stuff there. But if you want to see more stuff like this, guys, treat it like a live stream, and I'll hang out with you. All right, right now we'll hang out. Be excited. You can see the smile. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.